Well, it's all about the bridges, so stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good evening everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly. Now, as you can see, I've gone ahead and started the actual bridge or the viaduct, and this is made from 2mm grey board. It looks incredibly rough at the moment, and I'm not going to apologise for that because that's the process you go through. Obviously, it's varying pieces being cut on the cricket machine, and I've had to glue them together. You can see there's a joint there, another one there, and then obviously these diagonal pieces. So the way I did it, if I pop that back in, there's a bit of a lip there, so you can see there's a bit of a cutout at that point. Sorry, it was all a bit close, wasn't it? So that will slot over there and sit. So I cut this whole piece like that, and then I cut the sides, as you remember from last time, and then I measured up how far along they were going to go, both sides. And I decided then to work out the angle of this. Now, I decided actually to keep the pillars the same angle apart from the last one, because obviously that would be square on and butt up to the existing landform that we've got here. So hence that positioning there. And then once I knew all that, then I was able to cut this end piece off and then fit the wall at that end. After that, then I then go back in with some varnish, some clear matte varnish, to seal it all up. It will have a light sanding now with some 400 grit paper, and then we'll be ready for the brick papers to go on top of that. All right. Or having said that, there's one big omission I haven't mentioned yet. Obviously, these pieces will need the curved parts going in there, so that will be a fairly thin board, probably around about 0.5 mil, and I literally just put it in oversized, and then just pair along with a brand new blade, scalpel blade, and just take off the excess once that's all nice and glued in. You can see it's not even quite dry yet from the varnish, can't you? You can see that. Okay, so I will get that done and I will show you the next bit shortly. Right, there we go. You can see now I've put the card inside the arches, and that's just got to go off. I use PVA to glue it in, and obviously a number of clamps. I didn't want to use too many down the sides because I didn't want to dent or create dents. So once that's gone off, I'll then pair it off in a very similar way to what I have done this, and then it will be filled with some filler, and then we're ready to varnish again and then put the papers on. So I'll show you that once that bit's done. Catch you shortly. Well, I just thought I'd show you this next bit, because obviously with the bridge being a skew bridge, the paper has to go on straight from one point. So I've put it on straight here, but as you'll see from this bit, the bricks end up on an angle, and that's what they do. This bit, it's turned out a lot straighter than it first appeared, although the bricks have started to tilt ever so slightly, probably by 1 brick's width at the end. But anyway, the next stage is to then cut the paper so it's more or less parallel. Now I'll show you an image of the real bridge. Now there aren't very many images of the bridge available, so I have to use what is available. This is Google Maps kind of street view, if you like, although there's just one single camera, and obviously you can look all around. So I've got a good image of the River Goyt and what it does, but that is pretty much the image of the bridge that I've got, and then it's a case of finding out other images on Google or on the internet anyway. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that the brickwork isn't exactly flat. It does stick out and jut out a bit. In fact, this brickwork here is quite lumpy. So I am going to try an experiment with some painting on thinned filler and sort of paint it on. I don't know whether that's going to work or not. I haven't tried it yet, but obviously if it does work, then that might help to create some of this lumpiness that's around here. But you'll notice all these bricks, they start tilting round and going around that angle like that. Now, originally, I was going to use the paper, the ones that come with the scale scenes paper, but they just look a bit, they don't look right. And you can see, compared to those on the screen, it really doesn't look right at all. These are very uniform, and this bridge just isn't. So what you need to do is, if I just move that back out now, taking some very sharp scissors, and these, I bought these ones, they've got a very sharp point, and they cut right to the edge. So I'm just going to cut that a little bit more parallel, like that. And then it's just a case of just going in and just making thin, thick cuts all the way around. So I'm pushing the scissors right up to the bridge, up to there, and then just bringing the top lever down, if you like, and just keep doing that all the way around. Okay, I'll show you a bit more when I've done. Right, next bit, just using a standard glue stick. Many brands are available, as you can imagine. We always say that, don't we? Just go around the outside like that. I am tilting it using the edge, sort of, so I don't put glue all over everywhere, but putting a fair amount on like that, and then just work my way around again like that. And then it's just a case of folding them over like so. Do those ones at the bottom. Obviously they go on straight, and then these ones go on perpendicular to the curve, kind of like that. And so you just bring them up, so there should be some kind of arch brickwork going on there. So hopefully you can make that out. All right. Anyway, I will carry on and get the rest done. Speak to you shortly. Right, so welcome back. So you can see now I've gone ahead and done some extra bits. So there's these buttresses there, and again on the other side. And you'll also notice now we've got coping stones running along the top. And what I did for that was cut out some 1mm board and sort of painted it grey, and then went over dry brushing a darker grey pen, and then over the top of that I put some of this dirty brown, some of that over the top, quite thin. And there's also this string running along both sides. And this particular end, this is the end where the girder bridge is going to go. And so these are the supports for that. And obviously there's some extra wall. All this has been varnished a number of times depending on what the application has been. Now, as I showed you in a previous clip, the brickwork is quite lumpy. Voila. So I've been trying to think of how I could go about doing that. So the thing I've come up with is to mix up some filler. But this is quite thin, and I'm just going to use a brush and dip it in. So it's literally just a case of just painting it on or dabbing it on in varying places. Sort of dab it, and it creates a peak. That's the whole point. It's going to take a little while to do this, I think. And then obviously once that's done, then the peaks, if it show up enough, will need to be varnished. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes bit by bit by bit by bit. Right, there we go. I've left a picture of the original in the background, so hopefully you can get an idea of what's going on there. And obviously behind my hand too, down the other side as well. That does look quite vibrant in the light, but obviously once that's all dried, gone over with a varnish, and then sort of dulled down a little bit, I think it'll be all right. So anyway, that's to be left overnight now, and I'll catch you later. Well, there we go. I've now gone ahead and done a bit more. So I allowed the filler to dry, and then I put a coat of varnish over it again. And the reason for that is because, as you can see, I've painted some of the bricks back in now, so different varying browny, creamy colours, greys, all over, different places. So it looks quite vibrant again. I would imagine the bridge would look probably more like this when it was new, but obviously it needs to be weathered. Now, like I said, the reason I've put varnish over it is because the paint would tend to soak into the filler if you don't, and it's more easily washed off if there's no coating over the top of it. So it helped protect the filler, but also allowed me to put more vibrant colours over the top. So what I need to do now is tone it down a little bit with some very watered down white and some Nuln oil, and do that in the varying places where the bridge has weathered, the streaks on it. There's a lot of salting traditionally under the arches of viaducts and places like that. So let's get on with that. Okay, on to the weathering. Now, I'll do the underside first, just wet it, and then I'm going to paint the streaks coming down. And they would come down from the middle, like that. And I'm literally just going to turn it over and let it do its thing. So you can see it's running down now, and it will create streaks. Right, welcome back. So the other stuff is pretty much dry. So what I'm going to do now is take some Nuln oil and just dribble it down the other way. Now, I have to be a bit careful, because obviously you don't want it to go down and cover up completely everything that's just happened. But it's literally just turn the model upside down and let it run back down the other way. So you've got the white coming down from the top and the black coming up from the bottom. Well, yeah, coming up from the bottom, that's right. Then it's a case of just looking at the photograph, as you can see I've got there, determining where the darker areas are and the lighter areas. So I can see there's a darker area here. Yes, that is a bit vibrant, but I can tone it back in a bit. But just it's generally over these parts here, like so, and down there a little bit as well. But like I said, I can turn it back. And there's a little bit more up there, that type of thing. And once it's dried and settled in, it'll be absolutely fine. I'll just give that a little bit of a sloosh over as well. I think one of the most important things is when you're modelling a building, yes, they do get dirty, but to remember the salting as well. I think that's equally important, because obviously the bricks do leach salt and lime and things like that, and we've got to replicate that too. And it can be literally just taking a dab of very thick white paint, the driest brush, so there's hardly any on it, hardly at all, and literally just dab it on, that type of thing. And I think that's just as important, to remember these white spots. It's not doing so well because it's pretty much wet with the Nuln oil, but you can get the idea. So, welcome back. I've been working on the girder bridge section of the viaduct. So this will be effectively the top. I'll build it as if it's upside down. That bit will fit there, kind of like that. And these extra long legs here are so that I can trim them to the correct angle. Thought it would be just easier to do it that way. and those bits will fit kind of like that, like so, and then this bit will sit in there like that. So obviously, like I said, these bits need trimming, but the whole lot obviously needs priming and gluing together. I'll catch you later. Right, there it is. That's that bit done there. Just to flip it over so you can see the underside, kind of like that, and the other bit around there like that. Okay, I'll show you the whole bridge when it's in position. Still need to make the supports for this bit, and also a support to join up with the Hadfield area. But I'm kind of thinking that I'd like to leave this one open like that. I think there are plates on it. It's very difficult to see. I've only got a 3D render of this, and the overhead photos, satellite photos, seem really dark and blurry, so I can't really make out what is actually going on there. But I'm tempted to leave it open so you can see through it, kind of like that. And that's something I kind of regretted a little bit with Dinting Viaduct, although I followed the pattern of what was actually there. But I might just go off a little bit on this one. Anyway, now turn our attention to the other end of this section, and that's these bits. Now, if you remember when I finished off dinting, I came down the side wall and put a load of these arches in. Now this is very clean looking at the moment, it's nowhere near finished. But what I wanted to do was to have a break and then complete it and then do this section now. So these two pieces here form the tunnel portal, or the bridge portals, if you like. So there'll be a dome or a rounded section going join between the two, and then obviously this panel will just slot in at the end. I'll show you what I mean. So it'll look kind of like that. Now I've tried to replicate this piece to match all the rest. Obviously it needs dirtying down by quite a lot, as you can see. The red is quite a bit different, but you can obviously get an idea of what's going to happen with that bridge there. Do need to paint up the back scene section, but let's have a look from the other side. So there we go, that's basically what it will look like. And obviously once again it all needs weathering down and etc. There will be a half tube going in there to represent the tunnel, and you'll probably notice there is a gap just there. If I take you over to the other side, you can make it out just down there. I will at some point be putting a piece in there, but obviously for this scene it doesn't matter because you won't see it, because obviously the half tube will be covering that up, and this half tube will sort of go in there and be glued. Well, I'll have to draw around it, then take it out, cut it, and then glue it to the inside frame of that. So it'll all need to be painted up, varnished and weathered before it goes in, but hopefully that'll give you an idea of what this kind of thing will look like. And then I might just lower this section down here a bit, and that will certainly help tie in when the viaduct is back in place as well. That's downstairs, having the girder bridge bit fitted. So anyway, that's where we are. I'll catch you later. Right, so this is the bridge section that I'm working on, and it's this side. This is Piccadilly side. So you'll notice now I've put in a point motor to control this point. Now I've only got one. Now that is one of 2 points there as a crossover, so the other one will just be manual. But obviously the tunnel is going to go in there, or the bridge. Now I've made this section incoming now, so that will then slot kind of in there, kind of like that. I do need to work out exactly where that point motor is going to come, and then cut out a slot in there ready for it. So I will go ahead now and do that, and I'll show you later. So you can see now I've got the tube section in. What I've done is I glued that to this part and then slid the whole thing through, It was very tight, I have to be honest, but then I've left an overlap on the other end. I'll just show you that now. Like so. So what I've got to do now is I'll remove this part again, cut around, and then snip, 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 snip all the way around, and that will give me a flexible end to put super glue on, and then I can press that into the shape of the arch itself, and then it'd be a case of just going in with the paints and just painting around the corner, if you like. So I will go ahead and do that, and I'll speak to you shortly. Right, there it is. That's pretty much in. It does need a bit of tidying up around this edge. That does look a bit tatty, but you can see through there now, and quite pleased with the way that's starting to look. And the point motor, just in case you wondered, is there, and it's behind that flap just down there, so hopefully you won't notice it from either direction. I mean, if I put the camera just there, you'd be hard pressed to see it, to be honest. It's all black inside there. So I'm going to get this painted over and neatened up a little bit. Just quickly on the top, this obviously does need to be sorted out, but that's not for now. So just be aware of that. Although there is, when I put the back seam board in, i.e. that, there is a gap running along there. So I will pack this out slightly both sides, and just to make it look a little bit better than it does already. Okay, catch you shortly. Well, I did say at the beginning it was all about the bridges. So I've made, well, certainly two, and there'll be a little surprise for you at the end. So that's that one. And notice there's a little wing wall in there as well, and you'll see some on the other side. So there you go, voila. So you can see the two wing walls that I've put in there. This one I originally had running parallel to the track, but it just looked a little bit claustrophobic, so I thought I'd open it out a little bit. Obviously that one's got to be parallel to the backboard, and I've had to pack it out a little bit. As I said before, there was a bit of a gap running down there, and it didn't look quite right. So I thought what I did was I'll leave a bit of greenery space so I can put some foliage into that little gap, and then obviously this will be built up and then start to work its way down as time goes on. And this area is by no means complete. I did say that it wasn't to be done in this time, but you can get the idea of where this is going now. So there we go. So that viaduct in itself is complete. The scenery, as I said before, with the other section is nowhere close, and this piece will be removed, and the landform will come down and have like a base to it. And then, as I said previously, this will marry up with a much deeper backboard section running across there, which will then tie up with that, running along there, and I can just slope it down to meet that there. Now, quite pleased with the lumpy look on that. And if you've seen the video completely, you will notice that's filler. Then varnished over the top because filler's porous, just to seal it, and then painted over with acrylics. And then this part, being careful not to show what's beyond that, 3D printed section just to go in there. Then I went on and made that but there, which is a triangular section. I'll show you that more in a minute, but I obviously needed to complete this scene. Now I've gone ahead. Now that is literally just sitting there, and none of it is complete by any means. It's literally just sitting in place. That board there is more like what this is going to look like. That's literally just come straight off the 3D printer. It isn't my own design of bridge. Well, not completely. It's inspired by, let's put it like that. There's a bridge in, I think it's in Sunderland from what I'm seeing on Google, where there's two bridges run side by side. So this is the smaller one, and there's a much bigger one running next to it. And I thought that would be absolutely adorable. It's different to a standard girder bridge, but I'll show you this section here. Obviously that's the back. Now what I've had to do was I've added some more spines going down and one going across, and there's a big wider one at the bottom. But also you'll notice that this top bit, and whether you can make them out or not, I don't know, but I've actually even put the rivets in. And how did I do that? I haven't shown that on cam, I have to be honest. I laid it, I marked out the grid that I wanted them to follow. So I drew 2 parallel lines up all the full length, and then marked off, and where the lines intersected, I just got my scalpel and literally just stabbed from the other side, and that's the result. So I'm quite pleased with that. But the outside portion, I'm really quite happy with that. It's got some really quite deep sections going on in there, a little bit like what that has, but this bit has got the extra bits fitted. So there's some more spines been fitted to the top there, and you may be able to notice there's actually 2 pieces along the top. So you've got like a base piece, and then the top piece is slightly narrower than the bottom bit. So really quite pleased with that. One piece is a little bit longer than the other, and that's fine because it's a skew bridge, as you can probably imagine, in its wildest sense of the imagination. Little triangular piece there. Sorry about the shadows, but this will be ballasted to create the gravel. And I did say I wanted to leave this one open, which I have done, but this one will be plated over. It's a very similar construction, to be honest. They're not massively different. They are different, but not massively. This one will be very rusty and worn out. I think the original bridge is grey, so I'm going to really fade that off. A lot of heavy weathering, that type of thing, rust all over it, you know, and just really go to town on that one. But that's for another video. Well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing these construction of these bridges, and it has been quite a feat. So actually you could think about there's 4 there really. If we said that the viaduct was 1, then we got that bit, and then that bit, and then obviously that bit. Anyway, you take care of yourself, and I'll see you again very soon.